Good morning. Hey, guys. Um, just welcome, welcome. Uh, been on the phone this morning talking with people in the recovery community, and it's an interesting thing. I wrote a little note before I came on, and I'm gonna just read it to you. And it's about myself, but it's also about many of us. And in the beginning, I said in recovery from alcoholism, my simple goal was to not drink and somehow relieve the emotional pain that I lived in. The path that was laid out for me suggested that my true problem was of a spiritual nature, and that if I could straighten out spiritually, that the rest of my life would more than improve, that the mental and physical symptoms would be healed. This is a promise in the recovery program, and yet we hang on to old ideas and beliefs foolishly. The path to total surrender is a tedious one for me. It was a tedious one for me, and I hope my lessons and examples will somehow shorten or soften your journey. And that's really all that I'm here for, is to somehow shorten or soften your journey to awakening. And it doesn't have to be as long and tedious as mine was, and as painful. And what does awakening mean? What does awakening mean? So I'm just going to tell you what comes to me for that. It means in the beginning that I really realized that I couldn't trust my own thinking, and that I had to find a power greater than myself to rely on and build that connection. I know that it sounds simplistic, but that was it. I know nothing fancy about that. I just recognized that somehow the program had been corrupted, and it doesn't matter how. It just doesn't matter. It just, because I poked around in that. I went to therapists, and I talked to, you know, I read lots of books, and I did tons of affirmations because I realized there was something, but I was trying to fix it myself. And in the recovery program, the 12-step program, it pointed out that my problem was basically of a spiritual nature. I somehow got the program was corrupted to the extent that I'm talking about my own thinking was corrupted to the extent that all I could possibly do was put myself first. I was working with a guy yesterday who just been what we call a slip. And alcoholics drink often medicinally, and this young man is in a lot of pain. And the pain, of course, is from his own mind, his own perception of the world. And, if the world would only behave, if people would only do as he wished, things would be okay in his mind. And he thinks that he's done everything he can to make the world behave. But the truth is, from that place, from with me in the center of the picture, we're doomed to fail. It's a we really are a prey to misery, and we have depression, and we full of anxiety because we're running the show, and so that's kind of the first step in awakening, is that if we realize that, holy shit, no matter what I do, no matter how tricky I think I am, I cannot run the show. No matter how smart we are, we cannot run the show. And so uh, that's it. And so what? Uh, Many of us get a little hooked right here, because when the solution is presented, that okay, I can't run the show. I need to have some sort of a higher power, some sort of a God consciousness. Many of us stop right there. We say, well, look, that's bullshit. There's no such thing. Or I believe in God, but I don't. How do I build a relationship? Or we have a belief in a higher power that was based on our religious teachings, often when we were in Sunday school. So we hadn't really been students of spiritual teachings. We had been, many of us had kind of put it aside when we were really young. So I know all I need to know, that kind of a thing. And so it blocks the possibility of having a spiritual connection. And so if we've realized, if you get this, that, that with our mind from ego, it's impossible to manage life, um, then we begin to search for and to create a belief in and a willingness to live in a God-centered world. And I use the word God because it's hard to know what to call this universal intelligence, this oneness, this unity, this love. So I use that word, and but you know, if life is just rosy for you, if you don't have any, if everything's okay, it doesn't matter. It just wouldn't be it's just not a problem. But if you even bristle with antagonism a little, if you say, don't talk to me about God, then maybe have a look that somehow we've distanced ourselves, because there isn't some of us that are, that are, God. If God isn't, then He's everything. All right, and so there isn't, and there aren't exceptions, you know, and if we're living in ego, in the dualistic world, if we're living in right and wrong and good and bad, if we're judging all the time, if we're separating ourselves from people, if we're saying, well, he's good and he's bad and he's right and he's wrong, if we live in that world. And I used to be able to, judge people unconsciously within minutes or even less of knowing them. I liked them or didn't like them based on what? Conditioning, really stupid conditioning. Uh, they, maybe they look like a grade 3 teacher. So, and so I had a judgment, and that's still there. It comes up, and I go, oh, look at that, because I'll meet somebody, and just they have a certain nose or a certain way they wear their glasses, and it's there. It's like in the system. So, I can't. With the system, I can't repair that. It's irreparable in that realm. And yet, we hang on to those old ideas. We say, oh my gosh, are you kidding? we desperately hang on to them. Okay, so that's the deal. We recognize that we cannot manage our own lives. That's it. And so what do I do from there? And if many of us have a limited idea, maybe even a religious idea of a higher power that's quite small and limited. And let's see if we can expand that, into something that's more personal, something that's more real. And the way for me to do that is through prayer, meditation. Meditation brings me into that on a regular basis, and I feel the experience, and what's happened for me now is that the experience is there most of the time. I mean, I get caught in ego. I'm either in it or I'm not, and if I'm caught in ego or judgment, or judging myself, judging others, and judging myself is not just judging myself harshly. It can be, looking at myself from a, hey, aren't I doing good? And I mean, it's all out of the moment. It's all based on a story that we have of ourselves. So, yeah. Hey, Barb. Thanks. So, how do we let go of that? Well, we just do. We let go of it. And David Hawkins said that as we let go of judgment and fear and complaint, and as we let go of those things, uh, we we move into our natural self. And our natural self is a state of love. Love is, we are naturally unconditional love, and we are naturally, you know, universal intelligence. And hey, Dave, Thank you. So, if we are naturally universal intelligence, we don't have to worry about cultivating, something that's suitable for us in that relationship. We just keep surrendering, keep letting go, and knowing, and reaching out at the same time for this universal intelligence and clearing away whatever it is that's blocking the path, between us and that power. Hawkins talks about power versus force. You know, Eckhart Tolle talks about be here now in this presence. And they're all referring to this oneness. Muji talks about, letting go of conditioned beliefs and dropping into this emptiness. And it isn't that we become nothing, but in a way, Ram Dass said we do become nothing, becoming nobody. And you know, just know, how do we recognize when we're in our ego? And often, when we get defensive, we're in ego. When we think our rights have been messed with, it's ego. Just surrender, and this will, we'll be then in our natural state. And our natural state is in a oneness with this higher power. It's really that simple. And there's practices if you'd like, but not necessarily needed. You know, I think that for me, one of the things that I did, it was very helpful and to opening the door so that I knew where I was in a way. was the Enlightenment Intensive I did with Trevor Thibodeau. Because then I'll put a link. I think he's got some more coming up this year. They're just amazing. We collapse the mind. It's a process that literally collapses the mind. And mind's not very happy about that, but still it's okay, because mind, can be really, in a way, convinced that it's okay to surrender. We either, kind of surrender out of desperation, or we surrender out of inspiration. And surrendering out of desperation is hard. It's we really have to get beat up, and I'm here to hopefully help you to surrender out of inspiration, and to say, okay, I'm willing, I'm ready to to have this experience, to be one with God in this moment, be here now. So that's my encouragement. Every day here, we read a little bit from the, where is my little book gone? Every day we read a little bit from the book, the 24-hour day book. I don't know where it is. I cleaned everything up here yesterday a little bit on my couch. And, oh, there it is. There it is. And so I'm going to read from the 24-hour day book. And, I'm just here to support you, and if you watch this and you say, yes, I want what he's talking about, there are several paths. There are many paths, but I'm here to support you in the the path that I know, and for it's kind of a combination of the 12 steps. And I went all over the planet looking. I went to India to be with the Dalai Lama. I went to Peru. I really did look, under a lot of rocks, in a lot of corners, to talk to a lot of teachers, spent years with different teachers, spent years in the sweat. I mean, years. And because it seemed to elude me. And it eluded me because I wanted to hold on to my old ideas. Foolishly, I tried to hold on to, I was afraid to surrender. And finally I got painted into a corner, and a door opened, and I walked through, and it was like, oh my gosh, how could I have lived in my mind, you know? And it's nothing wrong with it. And I'm not against anybody's mind or anybody's ego. I'm just recognize that mine was geared. You know, I have my language is a little funny maybe, but it was geared in such a way that you know, it had a story about me, David, not good enough, not smart enough, not lovable. All of those things were in the, you know, um, it was also set up in fear, you know, so that was all there in the cellular memory, if you will, and in the context of my life, and I couldn't change it from there, from there. I, I had to let it go. And so that's my suggestion. Just friggin' recognize that there there is a way, you know, and once we have this spiritual experience, everything else straightens out. Ego says, no, 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 no. Let's get the business thing straightened out. That's what it did with me for years. Let's figure out the relationship thing first. You know, we'll just work on this relationship. I couldn't have a relationship, really, because I wasn't there. I was always trying to manage. So and when I'm managing, I'm not really there. And, you know, lots of gals fell in love with who they thought I could be because, you know, I was like the actor trying to run the show. And so, yes, I encourage you to, if you'd like to chat about it anytime, I'm here. Okay. Okay, we're going to read. We're going to read, uh, and what day is it? It is the 8th of January. Boom! The first week is done. Isn't that exciting? And the year's just flying by. And the 8th of January. This is from this little book that I've been reading from, and I started 1st of May, and with this little book called the 24 Hours a Day book, and it was written in. I understand now it was written in the 40s and published in the 50s, and early days in the 12-step world in AA, and you know, I don't speak for AA or claim to, you know, we don't have leaders or, you know, in that program, but I do love the, you know, what we the gifts, the simple direction in the 12 steps to this awakening. Okay, everyone who comes into the 12-step world knows from bitter experience that he or she can't drink or use. I know that drinking was been the cause of all my major troubles or has made them worse. Yes. Actually, the cause of my major troubles was my thinking, but drinking was a symptom of that. Now that I have found a way out, I will hang on to the 12 steps with both hands. St. Paul once said that nothing in the world, neither powers nor principalities, life nor death, could separate him from the love of God. Once I have given my drink problem to God, should everything in the world separate me from my sobriety? Should anything in the world separate me from my sobriety? Nicely said. Meditation for the day. I know that my new life will not be immune from difficulties, but I will have peace even in difficulties. I know that serenity is the result of faithful, trusting acceptance of God's will. I know that serenity is the result of faithful, trusting acceptance of God's will, even in the midst of difficulties. Beautifully said. St. Paul said, our light afflictions, which are but for a moment, work for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. I'm just going to read that again. St. Paul said, our light afflictions, which are but for a moment, work for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Okay. our light afflictions, which are but for a moment, work for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. So I think what he's saying is that, this relationship with our higher power comes sometimes out of necessity, out of desperation, out of our afflictions. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may welcome difficulties. Yes. Pray that they may test my strength and build my character. That's, you go into a room, a 12-step room. It is a room of characters, no question. So we're going to do a short meditation. I'd love you to join me. Been doing this lately because what people were telling me is that they have a difficulty with meditation. They're like, oh, I'm not sure how to meditate. It's not, so easy for me. And so if you stay, great. If not, I'd love you to go to YouTube and follow my channel. If you would, I'll put the link on here. Yeah, that would be helpful, I think. I don't know, but I'm trying to build this YouTube channel on a practical sense, if you'd like. And but let's sit and meditate. And by the way, if you want to find all the videos that I've done since May, and interviews and all that kind of stuff, they're on the YouTube channel. um, and there's tons of them, and hopefully some of them will be helpful. And the other thing is I'm going to start doing interviews again, of people, and if you have anybody in mind, that you think would have a message, I'd love to hear from them. And we're going to do one or two a week on top of this reading, and I hope to get back. I started the Bhagavad Gita last fall and got sidetracked and didn't get it finished. So I'd like to finish that, or maybe I'll start it over again. The Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Love you guys. We're going to drop in here for a little bit of meditation. If you'd like to join, that would be awesome. So just kind of get comfortable, and I close my eyes. You do whatever you want, but I like to close my eyes when I'm meditating. Just drop in. Excuse the yawn. Just drop in. Just use the breath to become one with the space that is you. We are that space. We are that oneness. So just with the mind, let go of all of our thoughts, all of our problems, all of our concerns of the day or the week or the month or the year or lifetime problems. Just let them go. All of our identities, just for a minute. Don't be your work, or let go of the idea of being a dad or a mom or a son or a daughter. Just be here now, free of all conditioned beliefs. And then if the mind is spinning with thought, just recognize that you are not your mind. You are not your mind. You are not your mind. Just let the thoughts go. Just drop in. Just drop in. Okay. Just come back when you're ready. Forgive me, I think I just. Wow. I drifted way off. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. Yeah. Call anytime. Okay, you guys.